The Virgin Suicides, a movie directed by Sofia Coppola, tells the story of Cecilia, Lux, Bonnie, Mary, and Therese Lisbon, who are most commonly referred to as the Lisbon sisters. The movie starts with Cecilia, the youngest of the sisters, attempting suicide. Eventually she succeeds, and not long after the rest of her sisters follow in her footsteps. Today, I'm going to discuss how The Virgin Suicides uses cinematic language to deliver information that can't be explicitly said in the film. According to Looking at Movies, an introduction to film by Richard Barsham and David Monahan, cinematic language is accepted systems, methods, or conventions by which the movies communicate with the viewer. One way this is displayed in The Virgin Suicides is through the camera panning across the setting, usually to let the viewer know that there is more to the setting than what is in the shot. An example of the camera panning in The Virgin Suicides is during the opening scene. The majority of this movie takes place within the neighborhood where the Lisbon sisters lived, and the movie opens up with a shot that pans across the whole neighborhood. Like I mentioned earlier, this is most likely to show that the events in the movie did take place in and have an effect on the whole neighborhood, not just the Lisbon family and the boys who spend their time in the house across the street. If this panning shot never happened, it would have seemed like there were only two houses in the neighborhood, making it difficult for the viewer to visualize the neighborhood. Another example of the camera panning is also part of the beginning. The camera pans as a car pulls into the driveway of a house. This allows us to assume that the house is where the main characters, the Lisbon sisters, live. It also allows us to assume that the suicides will take place in or around the house. Without this shot, any other time we see the outside of this house, it would be hard to tell who the house belongs to. Lastly, after Tripp leaves Lux on the field, she is shown riding in the back of a car with the reflection of the trees gliding across the window. While the camera isn't actually panning, the image on the screen is. The reason why I'm including this here is because behind the panning trees, you can see Lux looking out the window. I believe this shot was to show the emotions going through Lux's head, and the trees on the window show us that she felt the ride lasted forever. We don't know exactly what was going through her head, but it's safe to assume she was angry at Tripp for leaving her, and she was nervous for the punishment she was definitely going to get. I feel that cinematic language in these scenes convey a lot of meaning to the viewer. Another example of cinematic language throughout The Virgin Suicides is the use of low-angle shots. Low-angle shots make us see figures as strong, noble, or threatening, according to Looking at Movies, an introduction to film by Richard Barsham and David Monahan. During Cecilia's party, she asks her mother if she can leave. Her mother gives in, and Cecilia makes her way up the stairs only to attempt suicide once again. Cecilia walking upstairs was filmed at a low angle, giving the viewers the idea that she was about to do something powerful and threatening to herself. If this moment was filmed at any other angle, it would have created a totally different feeling than what the director wanted to convey. During a scene where some workers are trying to cut down a tree in the Lisbon's front yard, all the sisters stood around it in linked arms. They were protecting the tree because Cecilia's handprint was plastered into it. The moment they link arms, the sisters are filmed with a low-angle shot. This shot tells the viewers that they believe that they are more powerful than the workers with the heavy machinery, and they are determined to keep the tree in their yard. Without this low-angle shot, the sisters wouldn't look nearly as powerful, and the feeling the viewers would get wouldn't have been extreme. Lastly, during a scene where the neighborhood boys were trying to figure out how to contact the Lisbon girls, the camera angle gradually got lower and lower as the boys get in contact with the sisters. This shows that the boys were feeling confident in their attempts to learn more about the Lisbon sisters, and that they were getting closer to being able to help them while they were locked in their room. Because of this angle, the audience was forced to assume that the neighborhood boys would successfully help the Lisbon sisters by giving them someone to talk to, even if they were communicating through song. If these low angles didn't exist, most of the scenes in this movie wouldn't feel as powerful. As we can see, cinematic language is very important to The Virgin Suicides. Without it, it would be difficult to understand the setting, and the emotions we feel throughout the movie wouldn't be as strong.